Welcome to Unmasking Greatness. I'm your host, Chris Kokoris, a lifestyle fitness coach and mentor. This podcast is about unmasking your greatest potential, finding your purpose, and crafting a life worth living. Health and fitness has been the gateway drug to all of my success. My continuous drive to keep learning and surround myself with other high achievers forces me to level up, which has developed my mind to something I never thought was possible. This podcast is here to share what I've learned and continue to learn with all of you. This is your sign to take back control of your health, mindset, and personal environment. Strap in as we are recharged, and always, if you find value in the show, please subscribe and share as we can all get better together. Let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Unmasking Greatness. I'm your host, Chris Kokoris. I hope you guys are having a beautiful Monday today. And if you're not, then you're going to love this episode because that sounded really bad. I probably shouldn't start this episode like that, like something chaotic is about to come out of my mouth. But it's not, because this is going to help all of you. It helps tons of our clients as well. And I want to preference and say these last couple of weeks have been really great. It's been a blessing. We're getting, we're busy. We're, and busy meaning that like I've been overloading myself to a point where I'm like, okay, Chris, like slow down. We got to manage something. We need to delegate, maybe hire an assistant, a VA of some sort, because I just been taking it all on myself, and I could at the time, but now things are coming in where I don't have time. I don't have any time. It's just a run and gun kind of day. And I'm sure some of you guys can relate to this where, especially if you have a family or a business that you run in, or you have deadlines that you have to do things, it's just nonstop. I mean, for me, I'm up at I wake up 5 every day, 5 a.m. That's my wake up time. And we're rolling. It goes from, I wake up, I do my devotional, I take my son to school, I run to the gym, I have clients, I'm doing coaching calls, sales calls, creating content, filming, doing some back end work. And then I have to study. I'm studying for a course. And then I leave the gym. I got to go home. Some days my son, he's in baseball now, so I have to go to his baseball practice or his game, go home, eat with them, give my son a bath and lay down. So it's like there's no downtime at all. And this is every single day just about. And so it becomes to a point where you're just like, I don't think I can take one more thing. And I bet a lot of you have said that in the past too. It's just like one more thing on my shoulders and I'm gonna fold. And it's funny how resilient we are as humans, because we say that and we somehow make it through, one way or another. Whether we believe that we could or not, we just find a way to survive. And that's how we're wired and designed to be. But it is important to know that we need to do our best to mitigate, try to pull back a little bit on trying to get our bodies to chill and relax, because again, that burnout is real and it's going to affect your health. It's going to affect your hormones. It's going to affect, especially if you are working out and trying to be healthy, it will affect the results that you're getting. And these are the kind of topics and conversations I have with a lot of my clients, because again, I'm not different than anybody. My life is not more hectic than someone else's. It's just at different capacities. So how do we mitigate that, especially once we get into, with our clients, looking over their metabolic panels, looking at their cortisol levels, their hormone function? How can we help the body regulate itself? And one of the key markers we look at is, of course, cortisol. And everybody always, kind of throws that term around, and it's not bad. Like, cortisol is not a bad hormone response. It's something that needs to be regulated, right? There's a reason that you're supposed to have high levels upon waking up in the morning, because cortisol actually helps you wake up, and then it's supposed to taper throughout the day. And as it comes down, then melatonin raises and it helps you get ready for bed and start to wind down. So the body is designed, and a lot of this is encompassed in your circadian rhythm, which is really your internal clock, but it's also regulated through sunlight, right? Getting natural sunlight. And as you go to bed, the sun's going down, so it gets dark. So we as humans are not really created to be up and working, especially a third shift job. There's a reason they call it a grave shift, because there's studies show that people that have done long terms of a third shift work are passing early. So again, this is not just a hypothetical thing. These are statistics. So this podcast, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna open up and pull back the curtain a little bit on some of the things that we do to help our clients reset their cortisol. So, this is for you. And if you're listening, and this is going to be really beneficial, because let me ask you, have you ever felt like exhausted, like completely gassed out, but somehow still wired at the same time, right? You ever hear people say like, oh, I'm wired and tired, right? Like I really want to go to sleep, but I can't. My mind's constantly like going nonstop, and you're kind of tired all day, but you rely on caffeine just to function, just to like make it through. And then, by the time nighttime comes around and suddenly your brain really wants to start solving all these problems, right? It's like 11 o'clock at night and you're like, well, I got to do this. Don't forget about this. I got to make sure that I get this deadline done. And so your mind has not turned off. And the funny thing with caffeine is caffeine actually has a half-life. So there's many people that's like, oh, I can drink caffeine at night, an energy drink at night, and I go straight to sleep. You may go to sleep, but it isn't going to be good quality sleep. You're not actually going to get in that deep REM sleep that your body needs, And so with that and having that irregular cortisol, then you're waking up tired. Most people are starting to crave more sugar, like sweets. You feel like you're doing all the right things, but something definitely feels off, right? So if this sounds familiar to anybody that's listening, there's a good chance your cortisol levels are out of rhythm. Now, again, like I said, cortisol isn't the enemy. It's the hormone that wakes you up in the morning. It helps you focus. It helps you respond to stress. The problem today is not inherently cortisol itself, but the problem is most people just never turn it off, right? It doesn't dial back. It just stays high all the time, right? And this is very true for people that are, again, busy entrepreneurs, parents, juggling multiple responsibilities, just on go, 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 go. And so especially, again, when you have all these things happening, your body and your nervous system never get a real good chance to just reset and chill. So today, what I want to do is I'm going to talk about 7 steps that's going to help regulate and reset your cortisol, okay? So these are 7 habits that bring your stress response back into homeostasis, right? A little more of a balance. So nothing extreme and not too complicated, just foundational habits that signal safety to your body's nervous system. And these are the things that we start to do with our clients that come into our program. So again, I'm going to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and show you guys some of the things that we do specifically just for this area. And before we jump in, I want you guys to remember something important. Most people try to fix the burnout with just more effort. Okay, and I'm going to touch on this more, but when you're trying to fix something, we always think about like, what do we got to do to keep going or keep fixing something? And sometimes we think, oh, I got to be more disciplined and more productive. I need more caffeine, right? Harder workouts because I don't want to lose this progress. But often the real solution is the complete opposite. It's learning how to downregulate the stress response, right? So sometimes it's better to just take a couple steps back and work a little smarter versus harder, okay? So let's get this party started. So with the first tip that I will give you is we want to start with something a lot of people don't want to hear, and I'm in this bucket too, is caffeine. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the caffeine. Now, I'm not anti-caffeine. I'm not anti-coffee. I actually even drink coffee to this day, every morning for that matter. But many people today are just using caffeine as a Band-Aid for their exhaustion. And, what happens is you wake up tired, you drink that coffee, you drink that energy drink, you get some sort of caffeine, and it spikes your cortisol and your adrenaline. So now this is why you feel alert, you're awake. But later in the day, you have that crash, that like 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you start dying out. And then what do? We grab that other coffee, right? We grab that other energy drink, or maybe you work out in the afternoon, so you hit that pre-workout. And so now we're getting another boost of, on the low end, 100 upwards to 300 milligrams of caffeine and bump it back up, right? And suddenly your body is riding a stress hormone roller coaster all day. And then at night, you're wired. Because remember, I told you caffeine has a half-life, meaning that if you drink, let's say you drink an energy drink at 12 p.m. and it's 300 milligrams, well, by the time it's nighttime, there's still about 150 milligrams of caffeine in your system, right? So it takes time for it to work through all of that. So this is why you're wired and tired and you can't sleep, which makes it even worse the next day because you're not getting good quality rest. So there's a big difference between, the quantity, so how long you're sleeping versus the quality. I would almost choose 6 hours of good quality sleep over like 9 hours of just waking up constantly in the middle of the night, because you're never fully, again, getting in that deep REM sleep. So something that I would suggest is just start to limit it. And this is different for everybody. At one point in my life, this is back in 2020, as a matter of fact, I was taking in about 800 milligrams of caffeine. So I was taking a fat burner in the morning. That was roughly about 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. I was taking pre-workout in the afternoon. That was another 300. And then drinking an energy drink. That was about another 300. And that was probably around like 3 o'clock to ride out the rest of my day. And let me tell you something. You do that for a little while, and trust me, not only will you be wired and tired, you are going to have a weird sense of anxiety. And you won't know what it is at first, but I promise it'll be this uneasy feeling like something is wrong. And I got to that point. And that's like, all right, this is definitely a problem, let alone knowing what's burning out my adrenals in my body. So we need to reduce that, So my suggestion is really scale back the caffeine. I would actually advise, if you're going to do coffee, like I do coffee in the morning, wait at least, anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half after you wake up, right? Let your body kind of get hydrated, get your electrolytes, get your water, and then you can get you a cup of coffee, right? And even if you wanted to have maybe one more cup or energy drink later in the day, no later than 12 in the afternoon would be the very latest I would consume something. It may be a little tough at first, but I promise things will smooth out on top of, especially if you're exercising and you're eating the right types of food. You'll realize that you don't need as much as you really think. But most of us are, again, using this as a Band-Aid to push through a day. So this one change alone can dramatically improve sleep and your cortisol balance, okay? So the next one, let's go ahead and we'll talk about the exercise, right? So working out. Now, this might surprise some people because exercise is quote unquote a good thing, right? We should exercise. But too much high intensity training can actually increase cortisol. I see this a ton. And actually, I see this a lot more with females than men because females, you guys love the boot camp style, the Orange Theories, the, burn boot camps, these group training classes, what is it called? The Zumba classes, just high intensity classes. And I get it. You get around an amazing group of people. It's fun. You don't have to think about your workout. You're just going in there and pushing yourself to the limit, getting your heart rate jacked up, sweating, and trying to burn a lot of calories. But what this is doing is stressing the body out even more. I'm not saying those classes are bad. I'm just saying if you're falling into the categories that I'm talking about today, where you are kind of at your limits with stress, this is not the type of training and exercise you should be doing. It's going to be counterproductive. So again, I see this time and time again, especially with these people that have high stress jobs or lifestyles where they're going in there and they're crushing these, brutal workouts. And sometimes they're even doing that at night. And while exercise is healthy, your nervous system might actually need recovery-based movement. All right. And some of these best, cortisol lowering exercises would be, a traditional strength training, walking, maybe a zone 2 cardio, mobility, yoga, Pilates. Those are great too. Something that's just a little more down-regulated and doesn't have the body too stressed out, where you can kind of go at your own pace. And so this is going to be a better strategic move. And the minute we switch this, all of a sudden they're getting progress. It's wild. I've seen so many people do these boot camp classes for like a year and they're just stuck. And this is one of the reasons. Outside of, there's other ones as well, but if stress is an issue for you, this is not going to be the one. So exercise should give you energy after you're done, not actually drain the last bit that you have. All right. So just kind of think of that. I had a client that was, doing 12 to 14 hours a day. Now he owned his own business, but completely gassed. Every time I talked to him, I could even tell. And when he's doing his check-ins, but every night he was trying to do these intense training sessions. He had a home gym, so he would basically go home and hit it in his garage. And he thought that's what it took to lose the weight. Like, no matter what, non-negotiable, I got to go in there every night and, push these weights, do my cardio. And he started to stall. And I didn't realize what he was doing at first, because that's not what I built. But in his mind, he was like, well, I'll just do extra because this is going to speed up the process. And the minute I found out that, I was like, whoa, all right, buddy. There's a reason that I built the plan the way that it's supposed to be. It's not for you to add more to it. It's for you to do what I have you done. So I was like, okay, let's make some adjustments. So instead of him going in there literally 7 days a week, we pulled him back to 3 days a week. Okay. 3 days a week, strength training, daily walking, which now his body can actually recover. And all of a sudden, within a few weeks, fat loss actually improved. His energy was even better because he could actually sleep, and his sleep improved, right? Because instead of getting himself all jacked up at night, he could actually have a nighttime routine that starts to calm the body down. So sometimes the smartest move is doing slightly less, but doing it a little bit smarter, right? So if that falls, like if this resonates with you, think about that and try it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? If you're training and pushing yourself and you're not seeing results, well, I wouldn't keep doing the same thing. Try something different. And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how funny the body works when you actually get it to start working with you versus against you. The third step, this one's big as well. Most people live in this sympathetic nervous system mode. So that's, if you've ever heard the fight or flight, when you have deadlines, all these notifications, we all deal with traffic. If you're like me and you got to drive to Greenville on 85, you hit in traffic pretty much any time of the day, unless it's, 5 a.m. You may have arguments in the day, stress. So your brain is constantly scanning for threats, right? We're just like looking for it at this point because there's just so much going on. But the body also has another system called the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the rest and recover mode. So sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. And most people never activate that parasympathetic nervous system, right? Because we're just go, 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 go all day long. So simple things that can help with that is breathing. If you watch some of my content, I've talked about that. Just taking a couple minutes to just deep breaths. And we do this by default. Think about this, right? You ever get really caught up? You get really upset. Someone cuts you off. You're about to get in a fight with someone. And what do we do? Because we know we're like, let's not fight. Let's try to keep it calm and collective. What do? We take that deep breath. We're like, real deep from like the belly. And that is activating that parasympathetic nervous system. So imagine instead of taking one breath, you start doing that multiple times, right? Some deep breathing techniques, just for like 3 to 5 minutes. And that can significantly help with the stress that you got going on. Of course, like incorporating meditation, some quiet time. If you pray, having prayer time. Stretching is great. Supplements, of course, you could take like magnesium. If you have a hard time sleeping, magnesium glycinate is a good one. Ashwagandha is another one. So there are things, supplements that can help aid in it. But again, there's nothing out there that can change a lifestyle. You have to, right? You have to change the way that you start to react to life. It's interesting how much control we have, because I tell people you cannot control what outside factors are happening or what people say to you, but you can control how you react. I had a conversation with my son because he was talking about another kid that's, they don't get along very well. I'll leave it at that. And he's like, I just get so upset and this and that. And I'm like, for someone that gets you so upset, he has a lot of control over you. Someone you don't like has a lot of control over you. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, anytime he says something, he knows you're going to react. He knows you're going to say something back. He knows that you're going to argue. Imagine if he didn't say anything. I think that's going to bother him more because he's not getting the reaction that he wants out of you. So don't let these kind of things get in your head. Protect your peace. So anyways, these practices that I just shared with you, the breathing, the meditation, the prayer, the stretching, all that stuff, this tells your body you're safe. You can relax, just chill. So just 5 minutes per day can start shifting your stress response significantly. So try to just start with one. Step 4 would be, if you want to reset cortisol, okay, sleep might be the most powerful lever you have. Sleep. It all goes back to that. And unfortunately, it's also one of the most neglected, especially for guys like me, and you have projects and you got all these things going on. We're willing to sacrifice sleep to get certain things done. And I do believe there are times that has to happen, right? There are times that we may need to cut an hour out of our sleep, or we got to stay up late, but this should not be a regular thing that happens. So again, many of us, people that are super, super busy business owners, corporate professionals, parents that have tons of things to do, especially have multiple kids, we sacrifice sleep because we think productivity requires it. But the truth is, poor sleep is definitely going to raise your cortisol, make it irregular. It's going to raise your hunger hormones. So this is where we get snacky. We want to start grazing on food, which also increases cravings, right? Because every time you eat something that's high processed sugars or sweet, this is a dopamine response. So it makes us want more of that. Pretty interesting, right? And this also is going to reduce recovery, because if you're not getting good, deep REM sleep, the body's not going to release the natural growth hormone that it needs to help recover and build that muscle. So the scary part is most people normalize being tired, and I've even talked to people that it's almost like it's like you're wearing a medal of honor. Like, I work, 16 hours today. And, and they're talking about how tired they are, but there's like, I'm the champ. I've worked the hardest, the longest. And I'm like, yo, that's not something you should brag about. That's not something I want. And I'm pretty sure it's not what you want either. But again, we justify it one way or another. So one simple challenge I give clients is this, try going to bed 30 minutes earlier just this week. And that's it. Let's see. 30 minutes can change everything. And another little hack to top this as well is sometimes getting to bed 30 minutes earlier is tough for people, and depending on what kind of lifestyle you have. The other one is shifting it to have a very distinct, specific time you want to wake up, and wake up every day at that same time. Don't change it. For me, it's 5 a.m. I never change it, right? If it's going to be 6 a.m. for you, never change it. The reason I say that is because if you know that you have to wake up at 5 or 6 a.m., by default at nighttime, if you're normally going to bed at like 12, 1 a.m., you're going to start talking to yourself internally and be like, oh man, I got to wake up early. I probably shouldn't be going to bed at like 1 in the morning, right? I need to get some sleep because I'm starting to feel tired. So naturally, you'll push that sleep time back. And so try one or the other. Sometimes just having that morning wake up times consistent will help you get to sleep at a good time. The fifth step, okay, another super major cortisol trigger is unstable blood sugar. I have And this I have experienced personally, especially going through the gut detox that I've been going through, is that my insulin was constantly like spiking and dropping. And this, I could feel it actually in my body when it was happening. Because if my insulin was dropping, my sugar was dropping, I got really like irritable, shaky, anxious, and then you start craving different foods. Definitely not good. So when your sugar drops too low, your body releases cortisol to bring it back up, right? And so, and this can also happen with people that skip meals, right? I don't think there's not a significant difference if you're going to eat 3 meals or 7 meals. Now, I do think some are optimal for certain people. The biggest thing is like, you don't want to get to a point where you're starving, because more than likely your sugar is definitely dropping by then, okay? So the solution isn't really complicating, right? It's just you got to prioritize the meals and make sure that it includes protein, good fiber, and healthy fats. So for example, when it comes to protein, I would tell people, do your best to stick with, chicken, steak, eggs. You could do salmon, something along those lines. If you need something fast, a protein shake is okay. Again, I think that's a supplement. When it comes to fiber, something that is slam packed full of fiber is berries. So you could do blueberries, raspberries, chia seeds is another easy hack to get fiber in. Healthy fats. My go-to healthy fat right now is avocado, or more specifically, guacamole. Actually, I really enjoy some guac. And I would encourage you guys, if you do guac, make sure that when you go into a grocery store, get the in-house freshly made guac. Because the stuff that's pre-packaged, I am pretty confident that they have some kind of green dye in there. Because if you've ever left guac out or it's out too long, it will brown. And that stuff don't brown ever, which is a little concerning. So something to take in consideration. But having those balanced meals is definitely going to stabilize blood sugar, which stabilizes cortisol, which is actually going to give you more energy throughout the day as well. I mean, it's like here's a prime example, Thanksgiving. You stuff yourself, and then when you get yourself into a food coma, all right, there you go. You done spiked it all up. So the next step is try to start getting outside. Remember, we talked about the cortisol and the circadian rhythm. So one of the most underrated health tools is sunlight, just nature. Spending time outside helps regulate your circadian rhythm. Morning sunlight is particularly what helps your body understand when to wake up and when to actually go to sleep. Kind of goes back to the caveman era, right? I mean, people always talk about the caveman diet and how the cavemans live. Now, I'm not saying I want to live like a caveman, but they did have that on lock because there was no electricity, no light to keep them awake. So go with the flow when it comes to that. I've read studies that show that even 10 minutes in nature can reduce cortisol. The weather's starting to get nicer where we're at right now. So me going outside, going for a little hike, a little walk, I always feel so much better after that, especially when it feels nice and the sun is out. It just changes my mood almost immediately. So just something just as simple as that can completely change your nervous system state. So do your best to do that. Outside of like the sunlight too, here's a little additional hack when it comes to this kind of thing. If you're like me, I honestly, like my day starts way before the sun comes up. They do have different types of light boxes that emulate sunlight, because what happens is that light actually goes through a section of your eyes and goes to the signals the brain to like wake up and be more cognitive. So look for things like that. And also at nighttime, this is why it's really good to turn all screens, phones, TVs, computers off an hour before you lay down. Again, part of that is just that light. And if you really want to get deep into that, you can start looking at Blu-ray glasses. And there's some interesting studies on that. That's a whole other topic in itself, though. But if you're interested in that, you can look at stuff like that. Keynote, I wouldn't recommend wearing those all day. I see some people doing that. It's like, that's ridiculous. So, and lastly, the last step is recovery. We prioritize so much in fitness as far as working out and eating healthy and doing all the things, but what do we do to kind of like slow down and increase the recovery time? So if your gym has saunas, that is an amazing way to help with recovery. That heat exposure improves circulation and can help the body really relax. It's actually even now showing it helps with muscle recovery, but also with your VO2 max, and which makes sense, right? Because if we can expand those blood vessels, it's going to be able to help flow more red blood cells, more oxygen, a lot more efficiently. So it would make sense that that would happen. You can even do hot baths. That's fine. Steam rooms. Some gyms or facilities do have steam rooms, so you could do that as well. But many of these cultures have used heat therapy for centuries for recovery and health. So it's kind of like, let's go back to those kind of caveman errors of what worked. Everybody's looking for trying to find the new hack, the new thing, the new peptide, the new hormone or whatever. And I'm definitely an advocate for peptides and make sure our hormone function is right, but nothing is going to fix, there's no supplement that can replace your lifestyle. It's only going to enhance what you're already doing or not. You could take all the things in the world, but if you're not fixing the root cause of things, nothing will help you. So the heat recovery and just focusing on that in general is an amazing way to help. So here's the idea of this whole concept. And I hope you guys are, tuning in and listening and try this kind of thing. But just understand, most people try to fix burnout by pushing harder. I see it all the time. But the real solution is often creating more recovery signals for your body. Better sleep, less stimulation, more nature, balanced nutrition, and even just exercise smarter, right? I always say train specific for what you're trying to get. And when you do that consistently, your cortisol will naturally start to regulate. It's not going to happen overnight, okay? But these are the things that's going to help it regulate again. And it'll take a little bit of time. So if you have been feeling stuck lately, tired all the time, struggling, motivated, feeling overwhelmed, it might not be a discipline problem. It might simply be that your nervous system needs a reset, right? Unplug it for 10 seconds, plug it back in, start it back up. The good news is your body is incredibly good at recovering. It wants to recover. It wants to regulate itself, but sometimes we gotta give it what it needs. And when you give it the right environment, things just start to work. So if this episode helped you out, share it with someone who is, feeling a little burned out, super stressed, or feels like they feel their cortisol is off. And remember, your health fuels everything else in your life. Your energy, focus, relationships, your business, your jobs, all those things. This is going to help make everything a lot easier for you. So take care of the body that carries you through all the tough times and all the things that you carry on your shoulders. So hopefully this was helpful, and I will see y'all on the next episode. Peace.